Everyone, how was your day? All right, I can understand today because it was a long day, a lot of work. How were the mentoring sessions? Useful? All good? Were you able to make use of the resources? I saw the 3D printer is working there, so I guess some happy teams will get some prototypes. All right. As you probably have seen in the schedule, we have a few talks that we have prepared for you, where we keep trying to inspire you, so we have a few talks prepared from space, from automotive, and from logistics. And I'm going to start by introducing the first speaker that's going to join us tonight via Skype call. And I just need to turn this on, or do this. And then we're going to have our first speaker, Mikael Moeslund, the CEO of EASI'R. He's going to join us via Skype. Hey, Michael, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, everybody.
All right. Everyone says hello. So
Yeah, I see them.
I would say you have the floor, but then you just have the screen now.
Okay, cool. Cool. I just start going in and basically going in and showing something. Okay, hi everybody. As introduced, my name is Mikael, and I'm CEO of a company named EASI'R. Basically, for our discussion today, I have prepared a little bit about our company and some of the learnings that we have gathered along the way. So I'm basically just going to jump directly to some of the historic development, because that's actually, I think that's something which is useful and helpful for everybody. To give you a bit of an insight, it's actually not a startup. Well, it kind of is, and I'll get back to that later. Founded it in 2002 in Chemnitz, and opened up an office later that year in Mullen. So I've actually, where you are right now, I've been living there for 7 years. I've been working so hard that it was not until I've been there for 5 years I saw the dome for the first time. This is basically the history of the company. So in 2002 we founded it. In 2006 we basically started to provide software. That means from 2002 to 2006 we were a purely consultancy company. That means that we were educating companies like large automotive companies primarily, but also energy companies like Scandinavian EON, in order to understand how they could improve their customer capability. That was the first time we basically reinvented the company. That was 2006. Instead of running around explaining all the good advices we had, we decided to basically start that into a software. We did that for Toyota in 2006, for Lexus in 2007, and then we started with having also BMW and also Audi in a smaller market like Denmark as customers. We then basically got Volkswagen and Skoda Denmark as well. And one of the things that happened in that period were that we started to learn that the way we built software in 2006 was a good move from being a consultancy, but at that point, basically having everything developed before the iPhone reached the market, we actually had not done a very good job. We had basically continued to develop the software in a manner that didn't allow us to scale it very quickly. So the founders of the company, I'm one of them, decided to sit down in 2013 to try to evaluate the opportunities to actually create a startup within our existing business. In 2014, we made the decision, and I was being in charge of leading that team. We started off being 2 people. Now I'm sitting actually in the office today, and we're 45 people up here for that part of the company. We stopped basically everything we did for selling our own old product and started to develop a new product. And I'm just going to show you a bit of what we've achieved with that the last 24 months. So first of all, as you're sitting in Germany, it might be quite interesting for you. I just selected some of them. I have more, but these are the most relevant ones. Skoda Germany and all their dealers are now using our software. We also made a partnership agreement with eBay Motors. I think you might know them in Germany under Mobile. We also got Toyota Germany and all their dealers, and got Jaguar Land Rover in the whole of Scandinavia, and also did a quite interesting deal with BMW Denmark and the financial services. The reason for me basically being it's Denmark and it's Scandinavia, it's a small market compared to Germany, that some of the real thoughts has gone into how we can really allow BMW to convert customers that are running on a finance and leasing contract, to convert them into customers again. And that's why I brought it in. It's just recently made, and we just rolled it out. So a bit of a history of the company, and I just wanted to share that with you to give you an understanding that from where we have been in 2002, where we were a consultancy, we reinvented ourselves in 2006, actually selling software. In 2014, we did it again by really thinking about, at that point, how are cars going to be sold, or not even sold, made subscribed to in 2020. And that's basically the reason why also we are doing what we're doing today. The whole ethics around what we do is that the way people are buying cars have changed. So we've gone from the typical car buying behavior of going to a dealer, looking for a test drive, getting an offer, and then the green ball there is what we call the key micro moment. Are you really able either to convert the customer there or follow up before the delivery to really sell the car? It then basically moved into more like online research. I think everybody of you know that as well. We are looking everything online, also for cars. Could be new cars or used cars. And then at some point you turn into be a lead management process, because you have an interest, you have a question, or you want an offer, or you have a brochure or test drive, and then you go to the dealer. As that basically changes to be much more, even more than we see today, a lot more online driven. The key question is basically at what point you basically do also everything online. Just go there, just to have a test drive, just to make sure. I'm a quite tall guy. I'm 190, so if I basically, it's not all cars that I can sit in, so I want to go there just to see how it feels, and also to see whether I have 4 children as well. So I want to see whether the children's seats can be in there. So then I have a bit of an essence, but I would actually like to go home, not necessarily conclude the sale at the dealership, but to do it online. And in the future, what I call the day after, it might be that we conclude everything and the car is delivered at our doorstep. That also has something to do with, and it's going to be also impacted by the way we see difference from ownership to mobility. Again, yesterday, we basically just went to the dealer to buy a car. Today, we go there, and then we decide typically to lease the car for 12 months, 24 months, 36 months. And what we see is basically our customers that we work with, they're trying to introduce what we call key-for-key campaigns. So although you only have driven the car for 7-8 months, the residual value of the car might fit the market value. So we use algorithms to find out exactly when you can go. Without having anything at all, it's just a 200 euro deposit again, and then you get basically a new car, a key-for-key transaction. And of course, the day after, we're going to see mobility as a service as some of the aspects. But no matter what we are doing right now, and that's why I just want to touch base of where we are now, I wouldn't say reinventing our company again. And as you can see, there's a pattern. We started the company in 2002. We reinvented it in 6, in 14, and now we are already thinking about right now how to invent it again. And the reasons are quite obvious. This is Dan Ammann. He's the president of General Motors. He said recently that we're going to see more change in the next 5 years than in the last 50. And this same person actually were the person to basically decide to withdraw the Chevrolet brand from Europe. He was also the one that, if you're following the automotive news media, he was actually also the one to sign on to sell Opel to Peugeot and Citroën. So he was actually a year ago saying a lot of things are going to change. And from when he said that, General Motors changed. So for sure it's going to change. And if we look at it from the aspects of the automotive industry, in fact, actually 11% of all dealers have disappeared just the last 5 years. And that, of course, allows us to look at why are people actually losing, but also what do we see as basically the winning element of it. The big losers here is that people are not able to bridge the online and offline world. That is given. But the challenge is actually more that as they are not able to do that, the dealers out there have difficulties actually converting online leads to sales. That gives them a very, very inefficient operation, leading to higher cost than what it actually is they're capable of doing in relation to the margin of the cars. Because the margin of the cars is not attractive at the moment because there's high competition. So that basically allows a lot of people to look at the market. This is just basically CarWow. I don't know whether you know, they're pretty strong in the UK and they just entered Germany. Amazon, of course, is everybody is afraid of, and with eBay, with Mobile and Motortalk in Germany, they're also looking into how they can basically get a share of the market. TrueCar and Carvana is more a North American type of companies. The winners basically, and that's what really is interesting, also what I want to talk to you about in the next 5 to 10 minutes to let you know where we're thinking things are moving. Everybody, we see that the winners, they have a clear strategy, but moreover, they're thinking about how to apply and use their data. Data is everything. So if you're sitting there thinking about startups, thinking about building a company, think about how you can monetize on data. All this data that we have collected for more than 10 years in the industry, having a lot of car dealerships around Europe now using our software, we have learned and started to learn and can put it into a pool of mathematics to really understand what drives sales, what really drives car sales, what kind of activities drive car sales, and we've tried to put it into a different equation. So as the industry is reinventing themselves, going from online to offline to online, and trying to think about how to get more leads and convert more sales, we're actually focused on 3 things. Lead engagement. We need to make sure that the customers that have an inquiry getting contacted as soon as possible. On the conversion rate side, we need to make sure that we actually have the technology in place at the dealerships to allow them to convert as many customers as possible. And then we have the sales velocity part. So if you're basically having a car, driving a car, how can we convert them to basically buy a new car faster? So as everything is changing, we're looking about how to gather all the leads, make sure we have the right path at the dealers, make sure we have the right contact strategies to make sure we can really drive the future sales of the industry. And by doing that, for us, it's not just a system anymore, it's actually something else. We have built the complete tailor-made solution for automotive that allows dealers to engage leads, manage leads, and sales accelerate. But we're doing it by actually unlocking the sales potential based on that data. Here again, the data. And that's what we are really keen on right now. We are having a totally new way of thinking about it, how really to drive through the process, but instead of, like it is today and have been for the last 50 years, it's been up to the salesman to decide what makes sense. And one of the real elements here of what might be interested for you, and I just wanted to share it, we have a whole, actually we are also working Saturdays, so they actually just left the office at 7 o'clock. I have a team of data scientists that sit down and crack the nut of all the data we have. And what we can actually conclude is that we have something called best winning steps. Best winning steps allow the automotive industry to understand by each customer inquiry what to do with it to increase the likelihood of actually selling them a car and selling it faster. That's really some of the key elements here. I'm trying to explain you what it is and why we're doing it. This is a typical salesman in the industry. He's under stress because he needs to manage 4 different elements. First of all, if you look at the one called managed retail sales process, if it's a walk-in lead, customer coming in, it's one thing. If an online lead, it's a different thing. What if the customer's actually interested in subscribing to a car in 2 years instead of leasing it or buying it? What is the best process then? Then we have what we call content and conversations. What do you really need to say? What do you need to write? What do you need to do in order to get this customer converted? Then we have contact strategies. When you do it, what are the next best steps? What is the timing in it? What's the sequence of the different elements of when to follow up, what to say, what to do? And then we have on the left side what we call the typical salesman behavior. With EASI'R, we're doing one thing and we're doing it really, really well. We're automating. We're taking, let's say, the mindfulness to the salesman of actually being a good salesman instead of thinking about what he should do at what point in time. And we're doing that by basically introducing this. Meet Karen. Karen is our, well, technology-wise, she's basically a robot. She is a self-learning algorithm that allows us to digest all the automotive data to understand what really drives sales. And we're connecting data from social media, for financial services, salesman workplaces, where they actually sell the car. And then we are basically playing around with her to understand how we can drive it. So we are introducing Karen as the virtual sales assistant for automotive. So this is just a couple of examples. She can tell which leads should you work with first, what should you do with them, what should you send them, and she can even, just when the lead comes in, predicts what is the probability of this customer will buy and when will he or she buy. So this is basically all the elements that we have, that we are looking at. And to give you a bit of insight where we are in Karen's career plan, we've collected a lot of data for the last 15 years. We've then planned with phase one. We have been, for more than 6 years now, we have been giving different suggestions, A/B split testing on different elements to understand what drives value and what drives sales. What do you send in the email? And what we really, a good example, for instance, just to give you so you have an understanding about it. When a customer have gone and tried a test drive for a car on a day, we have found if you, for instance, send out a personal automized email in the evening of that day, basically reaching out, being really friendly with a video in that basically says, well, this was the car you looked at. These are the things, so if you want to upgrade from A to B and things like that, these are the kind of things that could be also relevant for you. But I know it's a big decision to buy a car. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll be here for you. Such an email, we can see that is read 10 times more than an HTML email provided by the manufacturer. We can see that basically a third of them actually reply to that email just saying, no, I don't have any questions. Alternatively, they say, yeah, we actually were discussing it tonight, so we actually have a couple of questions. Could you please be helpful? And then you're still in the game. These are kind of small elements that we can automate based on Karen to really drive value. If we look at phase number 2, where we start to play around with our algorithms, that's quite easy for us to do, and we're nearly there. The only reason why we're not doing it is due to the new data privacy regulation, which is up for first, second quarter next year. As soon as we are aware of what we can legally do, meet Karen. Karen will be out there. She will be in the marketplace. So if you go out in Germany and consider to buy a Toyota or a Skoda, you will meet Karen. Karen will be supporting that sales process. As soon as we are there, we can easily move to phase 3 and phase 4. That basically means not quite far down the line, Karen can actually start to interact with you, not like a chatbot. This is more smart. She can interact with you to convert more sales for the industry. So as basically I was just asked whether I would be a bit helpful today just to share a bit with you where we are, some of the challenges we faced. We faced the challenge of being a consultancy, going into basically providing software, doing then a better software as a service platform. And what we are doing right now is reinventing ourselves to basically monetize on the data that we have collected for the last 15 years. So with that, I hope you found it interesting to learn a bit more of what we've done in our small company of trying to drive value. So I don't have any more else for you for this, because I would like to leave the open questions for the Q&A sessions. So if there's any questions, if you turn on the mic again so I can hear everybody, I would be happy to answer a couple of questions. Thank you.
Hey, this is Jeff Wallace from Infinite Dimensions in Spain. I appreciate your need to improvise. We've had to do things similar in the USA. What is your biggest challenge with the data privacy business? Is it something that then keeps you from really optimizing or customizing in some way?
The biggest challenge we have right now with the data privacy is that for us it is, and also for the European Union, it's actually quite unclear still what you are allowed to do with the data. There are different elements. We have lawyers attached to our company that gives us advice, and there are still some uncertainties about how long can we really go, how much data can we really use. One thing is that the customers give consent, and we are storing and looking at data from an anonymized perspective. We are doing that already. So for us, it's not a problem. We just want to be 100% certain that we are not doing anything that harms the regulation. So we are basically, we want to make sure that we are in line. So we are waiting for the final, let's say, vision from the European Union how every of these paragraphs should be treated and acted upon. So it's more like we are ready, but we are waiting. We want to be 100% certain.
Any other questions?
Other questions?
All right. Seems that that was the only question from the audience. Thank you so much, Mikael.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy your
All right. So we're gonna prepare our next speaker. Is the presentation ready? Almost. All right. So please give a warm round of applause for our next speaker, Arndt Qedar. He's the CEO of Space Products and Innovation. Arndt, are you going to use this mic?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just a second. Yep. Can you help me with the charger? There's a charger. Just a sec. Yeah. And second need to. Hi everybody, my name is Arndt Qedar and I'll try to teach you how to start your own space startup. So, yeah, hopefully. A bit based on my own experience and my team experience. So I'll start by telling you our story. About 3 years ago, myself and another engineer, or back then we were students at U Delft, working on an EASI'R project. And we were typing away code and making our payload and doing stuff, and we were, all good? And we were designing our own satellite and our own payload, and we were very proud. And it took us about 3 months to design the satellite payload, and about 1 year to do the interface between the payload and the satellite. And we were very frustrated that it takes too long. And we're saying, why can't you build the satellites very easily? And then the other student says, okay, let's talk about this. Let's find the solution, not just complain. And this is where a startup began. So we were discussing the startup for a while, and then we came to the Space Startup Weekend. This kind of event, this exact event 2 years ago in Bremen. And our team were doing exactly what you were doing. We were doing the famous canvas. We were designing our own business model. We were doing our own market validation. We were working very hard, 60 hours, trying to get everything, listening to lectures, talking to the mentors, getting everything ready in order to be there when the judges are evaluating us, but not just for the judges, but also for ourselves. We wanted to see if our idea can become a startup. And it did. First of all, we won the first prize. And it's a nice little story that we were three people in the team, and 2 of us were not even there to get the prize because we had to go back to our regular jobs the day after. So Sunday night, for you it's the day tomorrow. After the judges, we just ran to the train and went there. So the only co-founder that was left was Seish, holding the plaque of the winning team by himself with everybody else. So I got a nice picture with the entire participant of the Space Startup Weekend in Bremen. And then we said, great, so we won. What do you do from there? So first of all, what we won was a year mentorship by one of the leading CEOs in the space business in HR. So her name is Claudia Kessler. She helped us a lot. And she's the head of AG Space that sits in Bremen. And for 12 months, she tried to help us really start a business, not just have an idea. In addition, additional support from other fields. And with her help, we designed a feasibility study proposal to the state of Bremen to start on our project. I'm not going to tell you too much now about the project. There's a video on that, so you'll see later. But we said, okay, we have the feasibility study, but we need money. You know, you can't do anything unless you can get something. And then Claudia suggested, okay, go to the state of Bremen. They have some money for projects. Maybe you can propose this and you get. And they were really nice and they were really helpful back then. And they gave us a grant in order to start the feasibility study. But as usual, nothing as expected. And the grant had conditions. And one of the conditions is that a part of the money you have to contribute to yourself. So you get a certain amount, but you need to complete that. For example, if you do specific hardware or marketing, you only get 50% of the invoices, and then you need to find it, to find the other money. And not just that you need to find it, you need to prove before you start the project that you have the money, which is for 3 people that mostly just graduated, is not peanuts. It's 20, 30, 40,000 euros. And just by chance, me and Julia were presenting in another meeting a few weeks later after the winning of the Space Startup Weekend, and we met Cornelius. And Cornelius is not a typical space enthusiast. He actually worked as a consultant for Deutsche Bank. He was just there to hear about space and entrepreneurship and everything. And a few days after we presented to the meeting he was there, he sent me a LinkedIn saying, "It looks nice, congratulations on your winning, can I invest in your company?" And I said, great, when we have a company, then I can let you invest, although I don't know how much you want to invest, I don't know what to do with your money. But then came the feasibility study and said, great, we have an opportunity here. Not just for us to receive money from this person, but to involve somebody else in space entrepreneurship. You know how rare it is to find somebody willing to put his own money in a space startup. It's unheard of, and we were very glad to have him. And after a lot of iterations and deciding and how much equity to give him from our company, how to work with a notary, how to divide the shares, how to do article of associations, which this is the beginning of the document, we have established a company with a private investor, and now we're setting sail into completing our feasibility study. So we started by working hard, studying everything that we can about the hardware and the software we needed in order to achieve our dreams, days and nights, summer, winter, whatever, you cannot stop. As a space entrepreneurship, it's only you and your team. There's not a lot of accelerators or incubators there to help you. You have to start by yourself. But we also have some fun. This is a picture going to some investor meeting and stopping on the way to get some sun and to feel happy about this. And I think this is one of the investors that in the beginning says, this looks interesting, let's continue talking. So that's why we're very happy in this picture. We also continue to pitch, to try to get more money, to get it in a much higher stage. This is Julia here presenting in the International Astronautics Conference in Mexico last year, talking about space entrepreneurship, about the needs for more financing, more support, everything that we need in order to achieve our dreams. She really was there as a representative of all of us that wants to do space entrepreneurship, to advise people, but also to ask for more support. And we have people from Airbus and different groups here listening and trying to see how the mapping of the future can help all the space startups. And then after about 1 year of feasibility study, we're very proud to do a demo night with participants from Airbus, from OHB, from Berlin Space Technologies. And here is me and Saish demonstrating a proof of concept of our product for the first time. We had a small room where we connected those to a live stream like this. We're so happy the first time something works. And after a year of just theory and feasibility, to get into that level is very exciting, and I hope everybody that started a space startup will reach that level and feel that enthusiasm. After that, we continued to set new collaborations. We joined the ESA Business Incubation Center, one of the centers that support most of the space startups currently in Europe. Until recently, it was only for downstream, so only spin-offs of either using Earth observation data or non-space activities. For example, if you take a patent for space and you use inside out of the space industry, in the medicine industry. But we are the first upstream startup to join the EASI'R network, and that EASI'R is now giving any space startup either upstream or downstream, so making satellite manufacturers more technology or spinning off stuff, up to 50K in financing, all over Europe, France, Germany, Italy, and so on. And in addition, we went to another competition called the INNOspace Master. Who has heard of the INNOspace Master? Yeah, so it's a derivative and part of the INNOspace concept. And every year now there's a competition, which we have won the EASI'R competition for the first year. And the second year, I'm happy to say, it's baked in space with Sebastian, one of the organizers here. And this is a truly initiative that is supported by DLR, OHB, and other groups that helps startups become better, become more publicized, but also gives them an opportunity to get more grants, which that gave us the EASI'R grant. So, what does our product actually do?
Many of our everyday services, such as TV, navigation, weather prediction, and internet, rely on satellite infrastructure, and that comes at a cost. Satellite costs are high. Every satellite is custom built using a dedicated software and specifically designed hardware. One satellite takes on average 3 years to build, and it costs around $150 million. All this for just one mission. But what if it was possible to build a satellite like Lego? Yes, like Lego. Introducing Magic. With Magic, you can plug and play satellite components, avoiding customization. Integration of satellite electronics becomes as easy as connecting a mouse to your laptop. This means that components designed can be reused and become exponentially cheaper. Magic helps manufacturers to build satellites in 60% of the cost, saving a lot of time in the process. Satellites can now be built like Lego, smarter, faster, and cheaper. Magic, the satellite's manufacturing revolution is here. Contact Spin now to find out more about Magic today.
So, how many people of you understood what we do? Good. That's very good. Why? Because this is called an introduction video, and it's the genius work of Julia there. So she deserves a round of applause for this. This is what you need for your startup, a way to simply explain what you do. How much do you think this cost? Any guesses? 300 euros. This is on Fiverr with a professional person doing the narrating and everything. It's not a big investment, is it? If you can group and you have this and you show it to investors, customers, something this professional, you have the best marketing tool. A new space, new age tool. It is just an introduction video instead of the old way of pitch decks and stuff like that. So this took us about 1.5 years to realize that we need this. And we worked on this hard to get it right and a lot of iterations, but in the end, see, in one video of 1.5 minutes, I have a whole room that understood what we do. So we didn't just make nice graphics and it's just a PowerPoint engineering. Yesterday came our first product, and this is it, our Pride and Joy. This is basically the box of electronics that is able to connect different satellite avionics. So for example, a sensor or an actuator or a power unit from different suppliers that are not compatible or from different agencies, connected to the onboard computer and act as a router. So when you plug it in, it identifies it automatically, allows compatibility, and you really can assemble all the avionics like Lego. Just buy it off the supplier and plug it in. You don't have to pay customization costs. You don't have to do anything. And hopefully next month we start testing with our first customer, and then later on we're going to have pilots with Airbus, Teleselenia, and OHB. This was not easy. This took a lot of time, a lot of persuasion, and I'll talk about these events in the next slides. What do you need to do to start a space startup? First of all, enthusiasm. If you're not in the game, if you don't like space, if you think it's just something you saw on Star Wars, it's not going to help. You need to really want it. This is totally new. Nobody knows anything about it, and every time you need to re-explain yourself. So enthusiasm costs, and costs a lot. So you need to have it, because it will go down as more and more you explain it. So you need to have high level when you start. You need patience. This is a slow market with even slower investors that don't know what you're talking about. So if things in a usual startup takes 6 months, a year, we're talking 2 to 3 to 4 years. This patience will pay off because you will be the first. The only ones that can do this are you. So if you have the enthusiasm and the patience, the only thing you need next is opportunity. Opportunity comes from anything like this. Joining other founders, joining a group, thinking about idea, even if it's not the idea you want. Later on, it could be the idea you want, but you need this opportunity because when you go back home, all of these people goes away, and this will not come back. Utilize what you have. This is how we started, and this is where we're going. And it's nice to have a vision. The vision is something bigger than the product you're currently doing, bigger than the concept, and bigger even than yourself. It's something that you and your team and your company should have for at least understanding where you're going, where you want to be in 10 years. Because if you're only going to focus on one thing, then your company is really, really limited. And in this industry, you need something bigger. And utilizing all of this, you should start a plan about how you want to make it. So, what do you need to actually make the space startup? So once you have all the things to start it, of course you need the team. This is what we're here to set up teams. You need a technology. You need a technology. I'm really bad at this. You need a technology that will help you get to the level of understanding that the technology is better than what exists today. It doesn't have to be a lot of innovation, but it has to be something that nobody else has, or that something is better than what's done today. And you need potential customers. You can make the best product in the world, but if you don't have customers and nobody will buy it, then it's gone. I can tell you about us, that when we started, there was a lot of objection from the side of the different engineers that says, I don't want a solution that has a router or an adapter. I want my company to standardize everything so I can buy for any supplier in the market and do whatever I want. It was a very hard sell. That means we didn't have any customers. And then we discovered that instead of going to the master engineers that want everything complete and everybody pays for them, we went to the technician on the floors. And they really wanted a fast, easy, cheap solution that will change their way of working instead of installing everything manually for weeks after weeks in a very slow process to have our box. So we had to find the customers inside the customers, people that were willing to support us and say, this is what we want. So if you can identify the customers in your project, then there is no project. And of course, money helps sometimes. So, financing. I can't say much more than that. there is almost no financing for space startups. The grant we got from the state of Bremen was a fluke that later on did not continue. And the EASI'R is very limited. There's not a lot of startups that get in every year. But I don't want to discourage everybody. There are opportunities, and they're becoming bigger and bigger each year. There is a wave, and if you find the right time, you can ride that wave. First of all, there are grants. The EU have several of grants. The main one is called Horizon 2020. In the Horizon 2020, there's something called SME Instrument Phase 1 that gives 50,000 euros, almost no question asks, to do whatever you want for 6 months as a feasibility study. The only thing is the success rate is less than 4% to that application. There is a specific section just for space, so there's a lot of application each year, but you'll be unique because you're going into the space application. And if you write a very, very good proposal, maybe supported by some consultant, you have a chance of getting it, but the best chance is to continue applying every 3 months on the same cycle until you get it. And if you get 50K, that's a good start. And also after you get that 50K, the next opportunity in the same program is up to 2.5 million euros for the project you're doing, usually based on the first stage of feasibility. And that 2.5 million euros is for full development up to the market of your product. And that's a lot of money. Also, space agencies have started to develop more tools directly for startups. ESA has the Innovation Triangle Initiative that gives up to 175,000 euros every year. CNES and DLR has started to make other projects, hopefully financing most of the space startups, and also local government has started to see the value. I think Berlin is planning something, and also Bremen, so you will see that in the future. If you can go for grants, the famous FFF, Family, Friends, and Fools, if you can convince your family to give you money, you're more than welcome to use it. Just know that don't expect them to be quiet about this. This is a long process, and families are never quiet. They always want to know something, so you're risking a lot of your life here. Business angels are private people that have too much money. Let's face it. People that will put in 50 to 150,000 euros from their own money, either because they have a business and now they got money and they want to reinvest to get better return on investment, or like Cornelius, they're really interested in the field. These are not easy people to get. They're risking their own money, they don't get any insurances investing in you, and the money can just disappear. So it's not easy to convince them. But there are business angel networks that are going in different groups and allows you to access them. And if you search online, you'll find in each country a group that will allow you to connect to those angels and convince a group that is wide enough, so maybe some of them will catch. The most famous one is IBAN, the European Business Angel Network, and underneath that there's special local brands of each country. Try to search online. There are venture capitals. Most of the time they will not give you any money. This is a new industry, new market, does not exist. Loans, as somebody already said, banks mostly hate us, we're not even there. And the most two important thing is strategic partners and industrial partners. Industrial partners are people that are working in the same field as you are. For example, if I work in the space hardware, that is Airbus, that is Thales, that is Boeing, that might see a value in your company and either invest through their strategic branch or directly R&D money. And that's financing that is very good. And some of the companies that came out of the previous Space Startup Weekend 2015 have now signed with Airbus or other companies. And this is how you also get money. Strategic partners are people that might finance you because you have the same values. Either electronic companies if you work in the electronics, or for example, Audi that sponsored PT scientists. The most important thing when you start is to know where you are in the space verticals. This is something off the internet. I did not invent this. You can find it anywhere. These are the 8 verticals of the space startup of the new space, coming from spacecraft to launch vehicles, to space resources, to space-based energies. And you need to know that because when you're pitching, the right people will come only if you know who are the right people, and you know that where you're coming from. The other thing is also know where the money is. So if you notice here, on the satellite manufacturing and launch services, there is no money. This is the smallest market compared to the entire thing. Most of the market are based here on satellite-based services, which are TV broadcasting, internet, remote sensing. It doesn't mean you shouldn't go there, because a lot of times this, in a couple of years, switches. This might become the best thing because a lot of constellation and the infrastructure. But this is the current map, and you should be aware of what you're applying. And if you're saying, I want to be 10% of the market, you should know which market you're taking. Who can be the customers? So you almost never see this, shut up and take my money. No customer will do that immediately unless you did something amazing, and which then I congratulate you on a nice achievement. In the upstream business of the space industry, the main customers are either business to business or business to government, and there are people that are very slow. 6 months to a year just to make a single decision, and sometimes 3 months just for a single meeting. Get used to it from now if you're going into that field. You're going into the downstream, you're doing processing of data, new software, remote sensing. This could be anybody in the world, and then the process is much faster, but then the market is much more saturated. Upstream, there's almost nobody in the space field. Downstream, everybody is going there. That's always the choice. Stakeholders. Customers are just the baseline of who will support you. You need a lot of people around you that will become, in the end, your family. Investors, employees, sponsors, customers, suppliers, VIPs. Who's VIPs? Anybody that supports your business but's not really in the business. Let's say a minister or somebody working high level in one of the agencies. He's not going to buy it, but he says, I believe in this. I support this. So you need to also support him and align yourself with his line, because that's how it works when he's not really buying from you. So all of this depends on the amount of people you're connected to, and all these stakeholders in the end, especially in this kind of industry, decide if you'll succeed or fail. I took the example from the Guardian of the Galaxy, because anybody seen the second movie? Wow, you should all see the second movie. There's good guys here, bad guys, support roles, everybody's here, because in the end, you cannot make a movie with everybody. And like the space startup story, you need to have everybody to complete the picture. Your team. Your team needs to have everything. It has to have R&D, sales and marketing, management, investment, everything. It doesn't mean you need a person for each one, or even half a person. It means that you need people that have all these skills combined, because all of these are important, especially the last one, leaders. If you don't have somebody that's able to go to investors and talk to them, you don't have somebody that's able to convince a crowd or to talk to a lot of customers that are not able to lead the company, then the company will always kind of fizzle. You need to find somebody. There is always a leader. It's just who's the strongest among the team, and the team needs to decide who to promote in order to push him there, while the others can actually do work without him annoying them. So there's always a trade-off. Technology. You might think technology is our best partner, especially in the engineers in the room. Technology is the thing, the best innovation, the best thing. Don't let it kill you. That's the first message. And that's just because I like the movie. It's because the first thing you learn is that the more innovation you do, the more you are from the market, because then you have to bridge the gap in order to get to the market, and especially in the space field, you need to lower the risk, you need to prove everything, you need a lot of heritage. So if you invented something completely new, you might be 10 years off the market. But if you're taking somebody else's technology, buying it, borrowing it, and building on that, you might be a lot closer and a lot better off. Always think about it. Keep it simple. The rule is, if the customer cannot understand it, you're wrong. If I sell it to the customer, or I'm bringing it to the customer and he says, I don't know what this is, then I've done something wrong. I cannot blame him. It's up to me to both make it simple and educate him to know what it is. There's nobody else that will do it for me. Spelled value. I'm not going to read the spelling, but if there's no benefit, there's nothing to do here. It's not just the idea of he can see the efficiency or the benefit directly, but he needs to understand it. He needs to see how it plays in the grand role of schemes. So every time you go to a customer or a stakeholder that is not a customer but might use this in the end, he needs to see the benefit, and you need to emphasize this. The challenges of space startups. Can you see Philly in the picture? The lander from the Rosetta probe. Yeah? So it's the red thing. So the small story is that after they landed it, they lost it. It was lost for a long time, and the only way to actually get telemetry is just to go around the asteroid, or the comet, until you get some signals, and then you process them and say, okay, I got something. But they never know where to aim. It took a few months until they actually found it. And this is the thing. It's not easy. It's space. And the problem is, every time you plan for it, there's so many things that could go wrong. So this is, make it our responsibility to go all the way to make it the best and to face those challenges. As I said, the innovation gap is much bigger here. It's not like you're making a startup with an app or an IT where you can get financing easily and start selling. This is space startups. There is no market whatsoever for the upstream. There's barely a new market for the downstream, for data processing. There's not a lot of success stories. What to do? It is still a young market. But on the other hand, look at it like this. You might be the first success story. And the first is a good example for the rest, and also gives you a lot of more opportunities than a saturated market. There are no profitable companies that makes enough money to become a profitable startup, comparing to Uber or Airbnb or others. This is the situation. There's a lot of lack of experienced engineers. Experienced engineers usually will go directly and work for a space agency, Airbus, people that have 10 years of experience. How do you convince them to come to a startup that barely has enough money to survive a year or two? So this is the big thing, especially in our field, that is very specific. And one of the things to convince them is to think of creative ways, creative locations that you might settle with your companies, a different kind of values, options, or even interests. Find out what their interests and how you incorporate it directly into your company. And a lot of times, especially in the upstream, the starting cost is extremely high. Just, for example, the PT scientist, you see how much money you need to get, and it's very unreasonable, but it's good. So the pitfall of space startups. It's very hard to plan for something you don't know. It's very hard to make everything go exactly as you want, and it will never will. But you need to start with some good planning, to take margins, to take something, because things will go wrong, and it's better to have some buffer or some budget. This is the Gaia Mission, and its job is to survey 1 billion stars across the galaxies. And every time it does that, it saves them on board a memory, and it sends them back to Earth. Everything was perfect in the planning until when they discovered that when they launch it, it doesn't see 1 billion, it sees 2 billion stars. So the mass memory of the system got overloaded all the time, and everything got erased. And then they did a lot of efforts in order to book more ways to reduce the stress on the spacecraft and to get the data faster on board to the ground. So you always need to have some contingency, because this is a €1 billion project. And having something as limited as a memory system, it sounds, something that costs like €10,000 sounds very, very bad. So when you're making it, try to make a risk assessment and try to find what's the best planning that will make sure that you have minimum risk on yourself. Not talking about the technology. If you don't know what the customer requirements is, this is really bad. First of all, ask the customer what's the minimum requirement. Not what he wants, not what he needs, not what you're selling him. That when you're selling him, it doesn't tell you, oh, no, this doesn't meet my standard. This is not my quality. I'm not buying it. This is the worst thing they can do, because you convince investors to give you money to make the production, that you already have a customer that agreed to buy it, and then when you give it to him, it just told you no. So make sure you know exactly what the customer requirements, because in this industry, it's extremely important. Defocusing. It's very hard to focus on one thing in the space industry. Everybody has new dreams, new vision all the time. And especially when you're doing something for 3 years, it's very hard to continue and get to that level. But defocusing is very, very, very easy. A lot of times somebody will come to you and say, you know what, I have a new idea to pitch to you. How about we go for that? Or let's go to a new conference. Or somebody says, how about you divert? And instead of doing this, you do this. And that's the point where you start losing yourself. If you have a dream and you have a vision, try to stick to it as long as you can until you can't, and then change. But don't lose focus. Frustration is part of the game. Frustration from how the industry works, how the government works, how we are not really in the startup world. We're an exception. The best way to deal with it was your team, to share your experience and share it with other teams in order to see how to handle it. Don't keep it inside. Don't try to face it by yourself. It's very natural to have the frustration in all the stages. And last but not least, what I like, don't expect normality. There is no normal when you're suggesting to build an asteroid mining field on the moon or to build a giant telescope. You're not normal. You'll never be normal. Face it now and move on. So why do we do this? There is good news, everyone. We do this because we're visionaries. We want to go somewhere. We want to put something in different planets, in orbits. We want to process data that nobody else can. We want to provide services, give value to the people. It's the future. If we're not going to do this, somebody else will going to do this. There's a lot of people already in the industry. We're just following them right now. You could be the first in what you select. This is like Columbus discovering America by accident. Whatever you do, probably by accident, will be the first, and that's an achievement for your life. And the last but not least, exploration. We all want to discover new things and find out new things. How cool is it to say, I found the first type of that mineral on the moon, and I have that rock to show it. Exploration is part of our life, and I don't think most of us will be here without that need to explore. And the last line is a bit misleading because there's not a lot of money there, but maybe in the future you will actually start seeing money. Those who have money are already there. So you're not alone. You join a team of visionaries, billionaires of billionaires, second or first richest person on the earth, most crazy engineer on the earth, crazy hair on the earth, all here. They're all with you. They're all going to space. And if they're not going to spend a lot of money on you, they're going to spend a lot of money on some supplier that in the end is going to lead to you. So the opportunity here are in the billions. If he's putting $1 billion of his money every year in his company, and I don't know how much money he's spending. I don't think he spent it all already. And he has 3 businesses in the field, then there is enough money flowing around. You just need to find a way to get there. And last, this is my favorite map. Do you know how it's called? Okay. This is the solar system exploration map. Every kind of spacecraft existing currently, with which orbit and where did it go. This is the last 50, 60 years of space exploration. Now imagine this in about 10 years. We have so many missions, so many opportunities. The next ISS, a moon village, going to Mars, mission to Jupiter and Saturn that will land and bring stuff back. This is going to transform the world, and you're going to be there. So this is my advice for starting a space startup. Thank you.
Thank you. So, questions?
Your product, is it EM, engineering model, or EQM already?
Technically, it's even FM, flight module, because
Okay.
all the components are space qualified. It's just not intended for flight yet.
Oh, okay.
Hi. Can you maybe share the best and the worst experience so far during your startup career?
I had a feeling somebody would ask that. That's the hardest question because you're sharing the most emotional stuff. So the best are always the things that you win or get. You know, a grant, a customer saying, yes, I want to buy this, or some sort of a team member saying, I managed to complete that technology. Those are the best moments. Those are the lots of hours of effort come together into something that nobody else managed to do. Because no offense to somebody that makes an app, this is space, this is cool. And the worst are the parts of mostly the bureaucracy, where we had to handle people that don't really understand you, that in the beginning said, great, we will give you money, you can work on it, whatever, and then say, oh, wait a minute. Find 30,000 of your own money to put inside of it. Or you can't buy hardware with this, you can only pay salaries, and so on and so on. Those points where your heart drop and you see, maybe I cannot make it, those are the worst.
The previous question, or the question before last, touched on an issue that is really big for, I think, a startup, that of getting your new device qualified, right? So you just said something that kind of piqued my interest because I'm from the U.S. space industry as well, right? Coming over into the European space industry, and that was, you know, you just kind of alluded to the idea of a sort of an additive process of safety certification. Is that in fact the case here, that you can sort of add if X, Y, and Z are certified, if you add them together, it's also certified with maybe a little extra work?
Almost, but pretty close, you're right. What we did here is we followed our mentor. In the beginning, we said, we're going to space directly. This is cool. And then the mentor said, you're never going to have enough money to go to space directly. Nobody's going to give you millions. Start with something simple. So what we did is we designed a product for space with space qualified part, with the support of a company that designed product for space, for DLR and ESA. Everything is space made, but we're taking the product and we're giving it to customer to use as a testing tool in the beginning with a plug and play functionality for space hardware. And the only thing that's not really space qualified is the 3D printed casing. But technically the electronic board could go to space with our software, which is all with space heritage. We just never intended it to do. So we are trying to save money in the beginning in order to have the smallest delta possible to go to the next step.
A quick question. Basically, sort of what price point are you putting this at? Because obviously the satellite's very expensive, but obviously there's a lot of R&D overhead. So sort of how have you managed to sort of determine that sweet spot in sort of what they're willing to spend or something like this?
So this is an interesting question, and when we did the Space Startup Weekend, was the first. Hello? Yeah. How can you estimate the value of what you're selling and then put a price tag on it and then see what your cost is? So what we did is we basically found a website back then that showed how components can be bought off the shelf for space usage and compare it to estimates found in theoretical papers, and then the estimation of how much we save if we buy a unit that is space qualified but off the shelf from a previous mission and compared to a customized one. We found something like €500,000 per unit. And then we said, okay, we have this bridge, this gap of $500,000. How much can we ask from our customer compared to how much it will cost us? Then we did a cost estimation. We saw that the product will cost around $50K of components. We did our estimation. We said, okay, we'll have a beginning price and a middle price, and we did the whole estimation. And then we realized the minimum amount of price we can ask, the maximum amount of price we can ask, and then steps that will do that along the way that we enter the market. So the best thing is not to decide this is the price and I'm going for it, is to know your cost, you know how much the willingness to pay of your customer, which is the benefit, and then decide how you're going to enter the market.
Any other questions? All right, thank you so much. So we're going to have the third speaker for tonight, and he's also going to join us on Skype. But before we set up the connection, I have a few things that I want to tell you, because maybe I'm not going to get your full attention after the last presentation is done. So tomorrow we're going to start the same way, with breakfast in the morning, and then at 9:45 we are announcing the schedule of the day, what will happen, all the activities that will happen all throughout the final presentations. Also, we have here the list of prizes that the winning team can get. What I would like you to do is each and every team can go to the back, pick up a piece of paper from Sebastian right over there, he has them over there, and let everyone know that if your team would win, which would be the preferred order of the prizes. So that whatever teams wins, we can help you get the prize that would suit or help your startup most. You don't need to write them down. They will be written down on the piece of paper, and you just write 1, 2, 3, 4, where 1 is your preferred option, and 4th is your least preferred option. All right? So that's for the prizes. Logistics, more logistics, we're going to talk tomorrow morning. Breakfast, as I said, starting at 8:30, and then 9:45 we're going to start with the presentation. All right. So third presentation of the evening, from the area of logistics, we have Arndt Solms. He's the CEO of MyDaylivery. Hi there. Can you hear us?
Hi.
All right, awesome. So welcome, and you can start by sharing your experience with the participants here.
So, good evening and welcome to everyone still capable of listening, first of all. I can imagine you're having quite an intense weekend so far. It had been a long day with lots of information, so trust me, I won't take too much of your time, so you can go back and go through your ideas and prepare for tomorrow. For me, honestly, it feels a little unrewarding following after such big businesses like automotive and space industry to talk about logistic, which seems a bit sober compared to that. But as far as I know, at least one team is working on an idea that's related to the logistic market. So here I am. Again, my name is Arndt Solms. I'm co-founder and CEO of MyDaylivery. I want to make it clear, we have been working on that project for 2 years now. So starting now with the rollout, which means that we're starting to with the actual business right now to get into the market. We're obviously further than you guys, but still close enough to you to give you hopefully some helpful impressions. How did we come to the idea? I was working with my other co-founder, Arndt, for the MVNO market. MVNO means Mobile Virtual Network Operator. It sounds pretty fancy, I know. For you, mobile phone network provider may sound more familiar. There we were facing situations where we had to ship merchandise stuff overnight. To get into contact with courier companies, it took a lot of time and was very difficult. And at the end, you may have 2 phone numbers and were just happy if one just answered the phone. That we wanted to change. Because the courier market with a revenue of 3.4 billion euros in 2015, for example, is a pretty profitable market. So we came up with MyDaylivery. This is actually a platform that allows couriers to put in their schedules and for consigners to put in their delivery. With our matching algorithm, the courier mainly gets displayed all the deliveries along his route. Now couriers can optimize their workload and minimize empty runnings, which is actually a big issue for the courier market. The big plus for consumers is that for the first time, they are able to compare different providers at once. As a special feature, we provide private individuals are also able to pick up your delivery. They only need to register first in our app. The opportunity to choose between a professional career and a verified private individual allows a more consumer-friendly pricing policy. Also, we are working with insurance companies, so you can be assured that your delivery will be covered. That's basically our product idea. So the last 18 months, we were run by a state funding program where we were able to finish developing the software. I don't know specifically how the situations are in other countries, but state fundings can be very helpful, especially at the beginning of your startup. The first startup, for example, I was involved in was about a booking app. And the founder collected a lot of money by family and friends. But at the end, it didn't work out. And on top of it, he came into a lot of trouble with his people. This is actually a very important thing you have to realize. Most ideas, unfortunately, don't work out. You have to be aware of failing. But not to destroy your motivation totally, this is also part of the process of succeeding one day. Another important thing for me, I think, is your team. Investors like to see a team of different professions. The key word here is interdisciplinarily. To get back on the example of the booking app, that team had to outsource the whole software programming and had no one to supervise that. Of course, depending on your idea, it can be different, but in this case, it was fatal. Another thing that you need is someone who can sell your product. Sometimes you're too much inside the box that people won't understand what's your idea about. So start with explaining your idea to your family, to mommy, to friends, because the thing is, if they don't get it, no one probably will. You have to know your qualities, but more important, be aware of what you can't and find people to fill in that gaps. Steve Jobs and Elon Musk are actually rare exceptions of people combining multiple talents. The reality is unfortunately different. The last thing I want to point out is your business plan. Because no matter how innovative you may think your idea is, you have to know how to make money with it. That is actually basically everything I have to say so far. So if you have any questions regarding to the logistic market, go on, hit me.
Any questions? All right, we have a question.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, my name is Rusty, and I have one question regarding you said previously you did the booking app and you outsourced the programming to someone else to do it.
Yeah.
And is it now you are doing all the programming by yourself or by the team itself? Was there a difference in that, or do you still outsource to people?
We're still working with an external programming company, but at least we have someone to supervise that and to follow the progress of the development. So it's not the problem was that, you know, when you're outsourcing the development of your application, they only provide a service. They are not kind of inside, and they're not willing to make it a success. So they are depending on your input, because, you know, developing an application is a very, very difficult process, because you have to go through so many different cases to make your product useful that if they don't receive those input, you won't get any further. And that was actually the main problem with the first startup I was involved in. The company that was developing the app didn't get enough input from us to make it a better application. So I don't know if that really answers your questions, but as far as I get it, it was just a big improvement for us as a team to have someone you can rely on and who can supervise the whole process.
All right, any other questions? Okay, no more questions. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. This was all for the evening. You can go back to work, and we're going to meet here back and in the morning at 9:45. Thanks, guys.